Without any further ado, I will dive directly to this presentation in PowerPoint, and I will use it to talk about briefly ERC and these funding schemes, the Belgian participation in the Synergy Call, specifically 2023 call. I will touch upon some changes in the work program 2025. Some of them have been already applied in 2024 call. Then I will explain a bit the Synergy Grant feature, and I will also go in some details regarding the proposal structure. Then I will explain a bit the workflow of the evaluation criteria, timeline, etc. And then I will conclude with some hints and tips on the preparation of the two scientific parts of the proposals. So I will move immediately to the following slides, showing you the main schemes that the ERC funds on the top. You can see the main grants. Those are individual grants, so dedicated to a single PI. Those are divided by career stage. So for the starting grants, you have 2 to 7 years past PhD eligibility window. So all the researchers that fall into these 2 to 7 years after the PhD, they can apply. Then when we have the consolidator grants from 7 to 12 years past their PhD, all these researchers can apply. And then the advanced grants, there is no specific eligibility window here. What is needed is to show a track record of significant research achievements. And each of these grants, from the starters to the advanced, they get up to 1.5 million in starting, 2 million in consolidator, and 2.5 million in advanced grants. In all of these grants, they can request up to 1 more million of extra budget, but it needs to fall into specific categories. I will touch upon them when I will speak about the synergy grants, which is the focus of this talk. But the extra budget rules applies as the same as the other calls. Then we have the proof of concept. This is a grant dedicated to researchers that already got an ERC grant that wants to bridge the gap between their output and to a marketable innovation. It can be marketable, a device or a social innovation or whatever. They can receive up to 150,000 euros. It's a smaller grant, but it's just to as it is called, is for a proof of concept of this marketable innovation. So these are the results of the Synergy Grant 2023, and these are divided in a number of proposals per country, with Belgium having 3 proposals funded, and this figure completely overlaps with the success of the PIs. So here we have the number of PIs that got a grant in 2023. So this gives us a hint that the PIs, Belgian PIs in this year, they teamed up with international collaborators, co-PIs. Here we have the draft calendar of the 2025 call. This is still pending on the adoption of the work program, which will be adopted in mid-July as usual. This is an indicative calendar. We don't expect this to deviate much in terms of dates. So here, just a focus on the Synergy Grant. The call will open for submission the 11th of July and will close the 6th of November 2024. The budget this year is higher than the 2024, in which we had 400 million. In 2025, we will have 500 million euro. Let's start with the novelties, or not so much novelties, because these have been already adopted in 2024 work program. The first change is the CV and track record templates. They've been combined and simplified, so it will be 4 pages in total. And in which the PIs needs to list up to 10 research outputs that demonstrate how the applicants have knowledge in their field, advanced knowledge in their field. Of course, you need to give an emphasis of more recent achievement and examples of peer recognition, like prizes. The applicants will be able to also write a narrative description to explain the information, the significance of the output, the role of the PIs in conducting this research, and so on and so forth. So in the narrative, they are also invited to explain career breaks or unconventional career paths, and they will be able also to describe some other exceptional contribution to the research community aside of the common research outputs that are listed before. And yeah, another change is the introduction of a new scoring. So usually in the step one, we used to have this ABC score, and as of 2024 in work program, in step one, we included a new score, A, not invited. For Synergy specifically, this doesn't have any, let's say, benefit for regarding the resubmission restriction, but this A not invited has been introduced mainly for individual calls, in which only A's could pass to the second step of the evaluation, while B's, those proposals that had the merit to be turned into B and have a resubmission restriction preventing the PIs to apply in the following year. With this new A not invited, panel members have the possibility to give still an A, so an excellent score to those proposals not passing to the second step, and also relieving them from this resubmission restriction for the proposals giving a B. In Synergy is a bit different. We still have the A not invited, so indicating the excellence of the proposal, but it doesn't have an impact in terms of resubmission restrictions, because at step one, all the proposals that got B, they can still reapply the following year. So the resubmission restriction applies only to those proposals that have been scored at C at step one. I will talk about it later on. And then still for step one, still for individual calls, but I think it's worth mentioning, this is not for Synergy, but for the main calls. There is a cap in the number of proposal passing to the step two, with a cap of 44 proposal. In Synergy, this is not the case, and I will explain later on. The last novelty is the let's say explicitly stating that the proposal weigh more than the achievement of the applicants during the evaluation. So the panel members usually in the past years always say that they always did that, but the scientific council preferred to have it stated clearly in the work program, and also in the statements that in which you can see an hyperlink here. There are also some questions that have been revised. So the high risk, high gain aspect is no longer into the questions that are present to the panel members and to the reviewers when they need to write a review of the proposal. The high risk, high gain aspect is not anymore there. And not even the development of modern methodology. So the focus is rather on this groundbreaking nature and ambition. So the ambition is still there of the proposal research. So let's see now the design of the Synergy 2025 call, which does not change much with the previous call, previous year. It's always dedicated to 2 to 4 principal investigators that can get a grant size of up to 10 millions for 6 years, and they can request 4 millions of additional funding if it falls into the categories that I was mentioning before. The call budget, as I said, is 500 million, meaning that around 48 grants can be funded in 2025. There is no restriction in the location at the time of the application, but let's say all PIs, except for one, need to spend at least 50% of the working time in EU or associated country, and minimum 30% of the working time on the ERC project. In Synergy, we have still the possibility, the researcher has still the possibility to have an API that can carry out the project from outside EU or associated country. And of course, this time, working time and spending time in EU does not apply to this PI. Of course, the synergy characteristic is that PIs from different countries can apply all together, but PIs can be from the same institution as well. It doesn't really matter where they are based, but of course, synergy might foster this kind of international collaborations. The main difference within the individual calls with respect to synergy is that in the individual calls, the evaluation is a two-step evaluation. In synergy, we have 3 steps. I will go through the workflow and the process of the evaluation later on. And now let's talk about what is synergy. First of all, to apply for a synergy in a proposal, you need to have a grant challenge. You need to have an ambitious research problem that can promote substantial advances at the frontier of knowledge. It might cross-fertilize scientific fields or encourage new productive line of inquiries, new methods, techniques, novel approaches in which the investigators, the principal investigator, have a central role. And this needs, of course, the synergy might enable transformative research and not only at the forefront of the European science, but also can be a benchmark at global scales, also with the introduction of potentially a PI coming from outside EU. It requires a joint effort. So to foster this, the research at the intellectual frontiers, this can allow new combination of skills and discipline and bring together more than one researcher that can come from the same institution, as I said, or from different institutions in the country or EU or even in the world. And they need to show synergy. So PIs need to demonstrate their synergy, their complementarities, and the added value to reach a breakthrough that cannot be achieved by a PI, single PI working alone. So the combination of the PI should give more than the simple sum of the two. The know-how of the group, of course, this is very important as they need to demonstrate that they can bring together the disciplines, the elements, skills, expertise, experts, you name it, in order to achieve this breakthrough. The PIs of any career stage can apply, of course. This is up to the PI to present their CV. So if they are more into the career stage of a starting or a consolidator grantee, they should adapt their CV accordingly and show their achievement with respect to their career stage. So whatever the applicants consider most appropriate for their career stage should be reflected into the CV. Equality among PIs, this fourth feature, is because all PIs have the same weight in the synergy. They are complementary and they work together throughout the 6 years. And there is a strong commitment from the PI because they are expected to remain in the group for the whole grant. And the thing that there is always a corresponding PI, it doesn't mean that the corresponding PI has a more prominent role. It's just because it carries the administrative burden. So it will be the reference between the agency and the group of researchers. So this is more or less what is synergy, and what synergy is not is the loose cooperation or networking between PIs or simple passing that. What comes into my mind is we have a PI that is devoted to get clinical data, which have then passed to another researcher, and then they will be modeled by another researcher. This is not what synergy panel members are looking for. The one important thing is that interdisciplinarity is welcome but not mandatory. So there are many cases of proposals funded that fall within only one discipline or field. So synergy grant doesn't necessarily always mean interdisciplinarity. Now let's get to the synergy proposal structure. Here you have the left side, the administrative forms. You had to fill in duly all these things. I would keep more emphasis in selecting the ERC keywords. Those are very important for the panel chairs, panel members, and scientific officers to assign the proposal. This gives already a very first indication on where the proposal, in which field more or less the proposal is falling. And then this is also facilitate the job of panel chair to assign the proposals to the right person. Of course, they read the proposal, but the first indication that they have is the keywords that the PIs are carefully selecting. Here we have another novelty on the right-hand side. So the right-hand side is the scientific proposal. It's divided into parts, part P1 and part B2. The part P1 is evaluated, only part P1 is evaluated the step 1. It's made by an extended synopsis of 5 pages and the curriculum, the CV of the applicants. So 4 pages per PI. In part B2, we have the real proposal, 15 pages, in which you have to write the state of the art, the objectives. You need to be very detailed into the methodology. And then we have the resources, the justification of the resources. These do not count towards the page limit. So the justification of the resources needs to be written in part B2. And in 2025, we have novelty here. So the introduction of an annex, a separate budget table with in which you have to write down the breakdown, budget breakdown per PI, the time commitment, and also the justification of the additional budget. Here you can see the resubmission restrictions for the 2025 call. As you can see here, the only resubmission restriction, it's retroactive, so you have to think of the PIs that already applied to Synergy in order to have this kind of resubmission restrictions. For example, if a PI got a C in the previous calls, 2023 and 2024 calls, they are not will not be eligible to apply for the Synergy Call 2025, because with the C scores there is a resubmission restriction for 2 years, while for the A's and the B's, no matter what is the step, there are no resubmission restrictions. Even applicants that applied in previous calls, they can apply to a Synergy 2025, doesn't matter the score that they received previously. For the grantees, to be eligible to, for example, in Synergy 2024, a running ERC grant has to end before the deadline, 2 years after the deadline of the call. A PI can be part of only one application under the same work program year, in the same call year, meaning that in the work program 2025, you can only apply to one call. If you apply to 2 calls, the first one will be the one considered. The second one will automatically be considered ineligible. What are the evaluation criteria for a synergy? It's only one. It's excellence. It's the sole evaluation criterion. There is more focus on the project, as I stated before. The panel members need to assess the groundbreaking nature, the potential impact of the research. It needs to have, of course, a clever scientific approach, and also the synergetic aspect should be clearly stated into the proposal, clearly stated and justified. In step 1, as I said, in only part B1 is assessed. And regarding the scientific approach, only the feasibility is assessed, because the real details in the methodology will be in the second part of the proposal, in part B2, which are assessed in the following steps of the evaluation. Resources are not addressed in step 1. Those are present in part B2. So this information is not present in part B1. So in step 1, the resources are not discussed at all during the panel meeting. The excellence of the evaluation of the principal investigator also counts, but is way less than the excellence of the research project. But nevertheless, PI need to justify why they are the best person carrying out the project. They need to show their intellectual capacity, independent thinking, and also the right time commitment to the project, which is something that is, of course, evaluated in the second and the third step of the evaluation. So here, this is the workflow of the evaluation. As I said, these 3 steps. Let's go into it very. I try to be brief there. The step 1. It's meant to be one panel. So all the proposals that are submitted in one single big panel, which is then assigned to the experts by the panel chairs with the help of the scientific officers. Panel members and also panel evaluators are involved in the step 1 of the evaluation. The panel evaluators are nothing less than panel members serving in other calls, which are helping the synergy panel by providing remote reviews. And they all act as generalists. So part B1 needs also to be written in a way that also a generalist can assess it and can assess also its feasibility. After the remote evaluation, so after the assignments and all the experts wrote their reviews, there is a panel meeting involving only panel chairs and vice panel chairs. They discuss each and every proposal, and then they attribute scores. A, now the A not invited, B and the C's. Regarding the A's, there is no cap of proposals passing to the second step, like in the individual calls, but they can pass up to 7 times the panel budget. In this case, 7 times for the 2024 call, 7 times 400 million euro. And then all these proposals pass to the second step, and it's not anymore a single panel, but the panels are now 5, and they are quite interdisciplinary panels. But usually there are 2 panels that have a life science orientation, then 2 that physical science and engineering oriented, and then the last one is social science and humanities oriented. They are defined only when we know which proposals are passed to the second step. Once the panels are formed, we start with the remote review, in which in this phase, in which panel members act still as generalists, but we have also a set of specialists, namely the remote referees, which are nominated by the panel members, and they are the ones providing the more specialist review. So after the remote phase is over, there is a panel meeting with all panel members involved. They are subdivided in these five panels, and they start discussing the proposals and giving again score in the end. And in step 2, they can only give A or B. All the proposals with an A that can be maximum 4 times the panel budget in 2024 will pass to the third step of the evaluation, in which there is no more a review phase. Here again, still part B1 and part B2 are evaluated, but in the time between step 2 and step 3, panel members use the discussion and the reviews they got to formulate questions for the interview. So after this remote phase, in which panel members draft questions, we have the panel meeting again with 5 panels in 2024. They meet all together, and they have the interviews that are on site. So the PIs are invited at the ERC premises for the interview and questions and answers. And at the end of the evaluation, panel members will attribute A's and B's. The A's are divided as top A's, so the top ranked ones will be the funded. Then we will have a buffer according to the money that might be available successively. That compose the reserve list, and then after that cutoff, we have the rejected A's, so the unfunded A's, and after that we have the B, which represents more a quality threshold, and those B's are directly rejected. This is what happened in 2024, but in 2025, here there will be a slight difference, because while in the work program 2024 we had up to 5 panels, in 2025 we might have 5 to 7 panels, depending on the type and number of proposals that have been passed to the second step. And again, to the third step, there will be 5 to 7 panels, and this we will know only when we know how many proposals and which proposal will be passed to the third steps. So these are defined only at the end of each step, but there might be the chance of having not only 5 but up to 7 panels, so 5, 6, or 7. Then who is evaluating? I already said that there are in the step 1 panel members with the help of the panel evaluators. Usually we have 87 panel members, including the 5 chairs, and this is the division in the domains on the left side, the division of the domains for the panel members and panel chairs. On the right hand side, we have the panel evaluators, which outnumber the panel members, and those are selected also according to their expertise, and to also help with the workload that the panel members received during step 1. Yeah, as you can see, the proportion and the division in the domains is more or less overlapping. While in step 2, still we have 87 panel members reviewing, and this time we have the remote referees, and as you can see, there have been almost 1,500 reviews submitted by these external reviewers. So each proposal at the end of the step 2 remote phase evaluation is reviewed by 7 to 18 people. So the panel members usually 4 to 7, they provide 4 to 7 reviews per proposals, and with remote referees 3 to 12 reviews. So imagine the quantity and the quality of the feedback the PIs are receiving, either if they are successful or not. Okay, I'm almost done with the talk. Let's go with very quickly through the hints and tips for the preparation of Part B1 and Part B2. So this slide is for Part B1. So in step 1, as I said, panel members act as generalists, and they see only Part B1. So you have to prepare it accordingly. Focus on the groundbreaking nature of the research. State of the art is not enough. You need to go one step forward. The synergetic aspect is also very important to justify. It is to be clearly stated what is the role and what is the complementarity among the PIs. Of course, you need to give an overview of the state of play. So you need to know very well your competitors, and you need to justify why your proposal go the extra mile with respect to the state of play. And only the extended synopsis, as I said, is read at step 1. Give a clear, concise presentation. Put as much information as you can in the scientific approach in order to better assess the feasibility. Regarding the step 2, both parts of the proposal are assessed. So don't repeat what is written in Part B1, but give a different background in the Part B2. Talk about the state of the art, key objectives. Don't repeat what is written. Don't do any copy-paste of any sort, because they will read both. Provide details on the methodology. Panel members will challenge you if something is unclear during the interview, or they will, if the methodology is not clear enough, and it's too vague, this is punished, basically. Then try to justify the resource as clearly as possible and as much as possible. You can write as many words as you can, because they don't count towards the 15 pages limit. Explain if there are any the involvement of the team members. Of course, this kind of proposals have a huge breadth, and you might need collaborators that are not necessarily on the driving seat. They are not PI, but they are helping in specific objectives of a proposal. Explain why they are there, and because in the end, if they are also paid, they are included as beneficiaries of the proposal. And then at the end, in Part B2, you have another appendix, which is the funding ID. And this also, the personal suggestion, should be filled very carefully by each PI. So Synergy, as you know, is quite a competitive call. You need to have a very original and exciting idea. You need to have a very clever research project, a well-designed research project to implement it. You need to have a letter of supports from your host institution for each PI. If you already applied for a Synergy grant, please check the resubmission restriction. They are pretty clear. Write the research proposal, choosing carefully the keywords, and to ensure that the reviewers can find the answers to all the evaluation criteria that are stated in the review forms that can be clearly addressed in your proposals. The panel members and reviewers, they have also questions that guide them in the review form. Those questions, they need to be answered very clearly in the proposal, so that then the panel members can clearly immediately see what are the answers to those questions. If you have an interdisciplinary proposal that bridging different fields, one of the main obstacles is the harmonization of the scientific languages. Try to be as clear as possible for the panel members to understand what the PIs and their teams need to do. last but not least, and it seems trivial, but please submit. If you intend to submit before the day of the deadline, not the day of the deadline, not the day before of the deadline. 1 week before the deadline. Why? Because you don't want to run the risk that the very last day of the that you can apply, the system is clogged or there is a lot of traffic and you don't manage to just click a very simple submit button because there are too many people doing the same thing. So the take-home message here, again, 10% success rate is not high. It's very competitive call. And you can achieve it only through the joint effort. Synergy is not the, let's say, the end goal, is the mean to achieve the goal. And early career applicants are encouraged to apply. Then, last but not least, I would like to end my presentation with this slide, which and I want to focus on the column on the new applicant and the previous Synergy applicant. As you can see, the previous Synergy applicant has almost twice as the success of the new applicants. Why? Because they get a lot of feedback from the previous evaluations, and they, of course, take them into account to improve their proposals. And this is clearly increasing their chance of passing and getting the grant. For further advice, I would suggest you to go to YouTube and look for ERC classes, visit our website, look at the funded projects in the dedicated Synergy section in the website. Register early in the F&T portal to get acquainted with the subscription system. And if you have any question, either send an email to the Synergy applicants to mailbox. And thank you for your presentation, for your attention, and I look forward for your questions.
Many thanks, Giuliano, for your presentation. It was very clear. We received a few questions. Maybe we can start with this one. Is there a budget cap per PI, and including a budget cap for a non-EU country?
No, there is no budget cap. One PI can ask 6 million, the other PI can ask 2 million, and the other. There is no cap. It's based on the needs of the project. They need to be justified for carrying out the project. So no cap.
Okay, thank you. Can there be other external instances, for example, museum or research centers, which can be involved as a beneficiary in the grant, even if they are not PIs?
Yes, definitely. I was mentioning this during my talk. There are many cases in which there are partners and collaborators that are not sitting on the driving seat. Yes, definitely.
Okay. Another question regarding third parties. Do we also need CVs for the additional team members, or is a brief explanation on their involvement sufficient?
Yes, exactly. The CV and track record, it's only requested by the Scientific Council to principal investigators. Partners, you need to explain their involvement. They need to explain briefly their background in the proposal. We don't need their CV.
Okay. And maybe one question regarding eligibility. You already answered that, for example, an USA PI is eligible, but in view of the present crazy climate, is there an issue in having an Israeli co-PI in the Synergy grant?
Can you repeat the question? Was not...
Yeah, the question is about having a PI from Israel.
Yeah, definitely. Associated country. PIs from associated countries are eligible for being principal investigators. So, yes. Okay, and you can have, as I mentioned, one PI coming from outside EU or associated country, Brazil, US, you name it.
Okay. And one final question. I have heard several experts emphasizing that interdisciplinary nature of the proposal is a key importance. Is interdisciplinary preferred, although non-mandatory?
No. What is preferred is the ambitious research problem. It's the question and the potential impact of the question. Doesn't really matter if the question is taken from different fields unless it's needed. So no, there is no. We don't have we have nothing regarding interdisciplinary. It's welcome if there is a very interesting scientific question. Otherwise, they can stay within one single discipline.
Okay, thank you, Giuliano.
I see a couple of questions, if I may. 44 can go to step 2, and there is a budget for 48. 44, it's in the individual calls. I see in the chat box, I think. What I referred with the cap of 44 interviews refers to the starting consolidator and advanced grant calls. For the synergy, we don't have the interview cap. We have the budget. We always use the budget multiplier, and we will keep using the budget multiplier.